Why do some kids make it to the extremely high level Division I programs and some don't? You know, I've seen a lot of athletes over the years who are close, they're on track, right? And then they just kind of fade out. And I'm not talking about the ones who maybe get hooked on partying and, you know, booze and maybe even pot and drugs and flunking out of school. And, you know, I mean, those are tragic occurrences. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the kids who stuck with wrestling, but then they end up, you know, maybe at a lower tier of college wrestling when, you know, they used to pound the hell out of kids in middle school or maybe even in their freshman year of high school who go on to wrestle at a big Division I school like the University of Illinois. You know, speaking of that, we just had one of our athletes, Luke Odom, signed with the University of Illinois. Here it's October of 2018. He committed there. He will sign there next November, but he's already committed, and it's a done deal. Very exciting. But we had kids who could go with him, you know, but they sort of just kind of faded out. And I see that a lot too. So here's my take, because a lot of times there's not that much of a difference. You know, and there's nothing wrong with going to a smaller tier college. And I've said this many times, and I honestly 100% believe it. If you wrestle at Oklahoma State, where I did, or you wrestle at, you know, the Iowa Hawkeyes or some, you know, Ohio State, they're tops in the nation in Division I wrestling, or you wrestle at a Division II school or a junior college or even an NAIA program, there's no difference. It's exciting. Good for you. I'm pumped, right? I just am. I think people say, oh, I'm D1, you're not. Well, guess what? I've had a lot of kids who could have went D1, but, you know, they only got maybe a 20% scholarship. And the school's, you know, $100,000 a year to go to. And when you're a college athlete, you don't have time to have a job, at least during the school year. They own you 30 hours a week. So those kids would go to an NAIA program for 100%. They would pay nothing. So they got a college degree and they're in zero debt, where the big-time D1 kid who maybe even got a 5% scholarship, he can walk around and say, I'm a D1 wrestler, but he's got $300,000 of college student loan debt. So is one really the D1 wrestler and one not? Well, technically, yes, but the other guy had the opportunity. He just chose to, you know, couldn't afford it maybe. So that's an angle, too, we don't discuss enough. But obviously, you know, like Luke's he's getting a lot, and a lot of our best kids, they do very well as far as their scholarship offer, you could say. But I did want to kind of say that I don't look down on anybody who's a Division II or NAIA wrestler. I think anyone who does is just a complete loser. Hopefully no one looks down on me because our house is bigger than mine, or you know, someone's fat, someone's skinny. I think we get too much in that nowadays. It's just in the human condition for people to hate on people. And I'm just pumped, man, and excited when some of our kids get a chance to wrestle at a great school like Lindenwood University or McKendree, you know, or a smaller Division I program that's, you know, maybe like Clarion University, that's not really on the radar screen as far as Division I wrestling. But I'm pumped for them to get the chance to do that, just like I'm pumped for our kids that get a chance to wrestle at the top programs. So this video is really about the kids that get to wrestle for a top program and actually get a scholarship to go there, you know, beyond 5% or something, and who are sort of on the radar to start. They're in the grooming process, because some of us may be big-time D1 athlete and you get 5%, and there's nothing wrong with that either. But, you know, you're probably not on the grooming process. You're probably not going to be doing the morning workouts. The kids who get 70, 80%, even 50%, hell, even 35 or 40%, they're sort of like penciled in. They're like, hey, you know what? This kid's going to redshirt. He's going to be at 41, and then 2 years he'll be 49, and then, you know, his redshirt junior year, we're going to try to build him up because he's got a big frame. I mean, these coaches are looking out. years in advance. So I'm talking about those kids who makes it to the kind of the big time premier Division I programs and gets a big time premier scholarship offer and is placing and winning at the big time premier high school events and has big time premier college coaches texting them, writing them handwritten notes, sending them little gifts in the mail, right? Emailing and talking to their parents twice a week, calling them after a dual meet to tell them how the team did, right? Inviting them up for some dual meets and so forth. Those kind of athletes. I've had a lot of kids who are on track for that who didn't quite make it. And the common theme between my kids who did make it and mine who did not is simply this. Whatever got them to the extreme level of wrestling in middle school and even early high school, they kept doing that. And I'm not saying my program or my camps. There's a lot of great programs and camps out there, and a lot of our kids talking about Luke. He has a great coaching in Southern Illinois, awesome coaches, and I'm buddies with these guys, and I coach with the mat side on occasion, and they're great dudes, and they do a great job, and their camps are awesome, and Luke goes there too, So I'm not sitting here saying, they leave I'm just saying they drop out of, they kind of just go to the open mat route, all right? Where they chase workout partners, they go to the practices that are easy and fun, and they don't stay in the fire. The best analogy I have is this, the law of diminishing returns. We all know what that is, right? Well, there's another spin on that. There's always diminishing returns. If you go from 30% body fat down to 10, you can do that in 8 months. You want to go from 10% body fat down to 7? It might take 2 years. I bench press 100 pounds. Oh, a year from now, I bench press 200 pounds. Does that mean I'm going to bench press 400 pounds a year from now and 800 pounds 2 years from, 3 years after starting? Oh, I lift weights for 3 years and now I'm bench pressing 300 pounds and I weigh 155. I'll never bench press 800 pounds. You'll never do that. Oh, well, I'm quitting because that weightlifting coach screwed me. Oh, okay. That makes a whole lot of sense. You're really a smart one, right? No, you can only, once you go from sucking at wrestling to being damn good, to competing on the state level, to maybe squeaking out a state title or two, competing on the national level, maybe you win a couple close matches and you're winning some of these big national tournaments. To get better, the amount of time you put in isn't going to give the great returns that it once did. How good can you get as an 8th grader, right? I know a guy who's super high level and big company, right? Super successful guy. He's like, we got a sales program. The people that stick with it, they'll go from 40 to 60 real fast. They'll be at 100 in a year and a half. If they do the work. If they don't do the work, we can them because we like to make a lot of money. So we just fire them, right? But the ones who stick with it and who got in the door from the hiring process to begin with, it's crazy, Nick. They'll make $100,000 a year and they're like throwing office parties for themselves, and then they quit the training program. They get too good. See, they think they're cool because they got a BMW or something, right? They might even be making 130, 140. Then they quit, and then pretty soon they squeak down to 80, and maybe even some down to 60 or 70, and they justify it. They think, well, I'm still knocking on the door. I'm better than I'm better now than when I was at 40. You're making $68,000 a year, which is a lot of money. But you were 40. But you were at 100, but you don't focus on where you were. You focus on where you started because you justify the quitting, right? If you say no, you look in the mirror and say, no, you're a loser. You were making 120 doing the training program, and now you wimped out and quit. And now you're making 65. Not that anything's wrong with that, but you were making 120. You screwed your family. You took a 50% pay cut because you got lazy. But no, they don't. They look at, well, I used to only make 38, and now I'm happy. We do that in wrestling too. That's what I'm getting at. That's a common theme. My brother has a phrase. Our slogan for our academy is, those who stay will be champions. But my brother says he's going to change it. Just joking. Join, get real good, and quit. He's like, because that's what he sees too often. Not a lot, You lose 5 really good kids a year. I pick up 15, right? So, it doesn't matter, right? It matters, but, when you have a waiting list and you turned away 300 people for your camp this summer, you're doing okay. You're not gonna go chasing little boys under the bleachers because they're a sophomore and they quit wrestling. All right, they quit high level training. But you do want to confront them and say, dude, you're a freaking idiot. Just like this sales guy, he's like, you people are freaking idiots. Yeah, you're making 110. I am happy. I'll even eat a piece of cake at the office party you threw for yourself. I'll even take a ride in your new car. But he's got one guy, 3 years later, after everyone else quit, makes $265,000 a year. And everyone's like, how's he doing that? And he's like, because he didn't quit, So that's what I'm getting at. You see it in weightlifting, right? You can go from 100 to 200 pounds of bench pressing in 1 year. But then before you know it, you put 3 months in and you're only doing 205 because that's how it is. Just accept it. You should say 205 is good. You should say, because now we say this is the grind, right? That's what people call the grind. The grind isn't when it's working. It's easy. It's easy for a fat guy to go to the gym when he's losing 3 pounds every other day. Holy cow. Try being, 14% body fat, struggling your ass off because you want to get down to 10. And it takes 2 years.